Hello everybody, my name is Stephen Keane. I'm coming to you all the way from Ireland, nice and sunny Ireland, which makes a change in this part of the world. And I'm delighted to be part of the Digital Education Odyssey. So the overall theme of our talks are newspapers in education. And that's why I'm here, because I am co-founder and chief editor at News-Bites Media. It's a publishing company based here in Ireland and in Singapore. The company was a result of a collaboration between two publishing entities, ourselves, Newsmag Media, and the English Corner in Singapore. English Corner publishes STEM and science comics for young readers, and we publish monthly children's educational news mags. So I say educational because they're curriculum linked, but they have everything that a newspaper or a news mag would have. So the partnership formed from, I suppose, a shared passion or desire to get children reading and to get children reading for pleasure. Both myself and Betty, we would have a huge passion and a huge belief in the power of reading and in the power of reading for pleasure. And that really formed the cornerstone in the mission for News-Bites Media, what it is that we wanted to do. So if we look at three words, engage, inform, and inspire. So our mission, when we said that we'd set up the newspaper, it was very important that we would find readers. So I suppose that's where education comes in. The school is the perfect place to find readers of all kinds, reluctant, avid, emerging, marginalized even. So we set about using that as our base so that we would go to schools and we would offer a newspaper to the students. The next part of our mission was to inform, and that was to get writers of excellent quality from all around the world to pitch in and to deliver content that is worthwhile, it's safe, it's valuable, and it is of use to the children. In that, we could every month, as we all are aware, there's lots of negative news, but we were determined to focus on positive news. If we're going to inform children of news, we'd inform them of news that's worthwhile and that's worthy, and that brings a message of hope, of goodness, of kindness, all these kind of good things that are going on in the world. And that led us on to the third part, which is to inspire. So we firmly believe, as does many people in our area of publishing, that readers of today become the leaders of tomorrow. So we felt that if we were able to create a newspaper that would inspire the children to A, to read, and B, to maybe follow suit, follow the examples of the people that we feature in our newspapers, that would lead to a brighter future. And that is really the mission of News-Bites. When I'm asked what makes us at News-Bites tick, or what drives us, I think we can put it down to a quote I read a number of years ago, and it came from an OECD report on reading for pleasure. And when I heard this, and when I read it, and when I researched it and saw that it was true, it became a huge part of our mission of supplying content, of creating a reading resource that children would actually love to pick up, put down, pick up again, put down, but read throughout the month. And the statement from the OECD reads this: reading for pleasure is the single biggest indicator of a child's future success. More than family circumstances, more than parents' educational background, or more than income. Like, that's a massive thing for us, to think that reading for pleasure is the biggest indicator of a child's success. Now, there are loads and many resources that fall under the umbrella of reading for pleasure, and we're delighted to be able to stand behind a newspaper that we believe encourages and inspires reading for pleasure. Books, magazines, comics, there's a plethora of resources out there, and that is great. The more, the merrier. But for us, a newspaper, we felt, would be able to deliver on a number of things. So if you look at the choice that a newspaper offers, if you look at the different items of interest, the different sized articles, and all of these lend themselves to supplying choice to a myriad of readers. As I said, you might have an avid reader who will read the newspaper from page 1 to page 24 non-stop, never take their head out of the newspaper. You might have a reluctant reader who will flick and skip and maybe just read our bite-sized facts. You might have a reader who is marginalized in the sense that they may have dyslexia, and that is why we go to the trouble of recording some of our articles and putting them up on our website so that the digital world and the print world work in tandem to deliver a resource for everybody, to deliver a resource so that everybody can read it and get great enjoyment out of doing so. We sometimes hear from teachers that while they would love to get a newspaper for their pupils or to subscribe to a newspaper, that they don't have the time to do so, or the curriculum is already loaded, or they have textbooks to complete or workbooks to complete. And we totally empathize. Of course, there's huge pressures on teachers and on schools to get X amount of work done in the year. But I think it's very important that we shift this idea of a newspaper for children being a luxury to a newspaper for children being a necessity. Now, it's a necessity for many reasons, but even if we just focus on the reading for pleasure element, if reading for pleasure is the biggest indicator of a child's success, we really need, as educators, as parents, we need to commit to supplying or providing content for our children to read. Again, digital, print, it doesn't matter. Books, novels, instruction manuals, comics, magazines, it really doesn't matter what it is that they read once they're reading for pleasure. So it's very important for us to convince or to say to schools to make space in your day. If a child reads for pleasure on the bus to and from school, box ticked. You're succeeding in providing them with content that they're going to turn to by their own choice and get enjoyment out of. So it's really, really important for us to stress that no matter how busy a school landscape is or the educational demands are, to have a newspaper, in our case, so we have the newspaper and website, to have it available for your children, for your pupils, will go a long way in inspiring this reading for pleasure that is so important. I can list some reasons to have newspapers, not necessarily news bites, to have a newspaper available for the children. Now, one, it's to encourage children to read for a purpose, so providing opportunities for them to engage with the world around them, but in a safe and secure manner. And this is done through the reporting of trustworthy news from trustworthy news writers. This whole world of fake news is really, really important to address and to acknowledge as real. So if you know that you have a newspaper coming in that is of a very trustworthy nature, then giving the children reasons to read, to find out about what's happening in the world and to inform them of what's happening in the world, that's a hugely beneficial reason and a great reason to get a newspaper under their noses. To develop, we don't need to talk much more, I'd imagine, on the importance of developing love of reading for pleasure, but also by having a newspaper in education, you are nurturing a love of current affairs, of history, indeed of geography, of STEM, of all these different interesting and informative areas of learning. And these speak directly to the children in a language they understand when it is presented in a newspaper that is written solely for them. You get to promote and inspire a feeling of pride in the reader, because what we do is we commit to reporting on their community or on their country by highlighting that positive news and focusing on positive role models. If the young readers don't have a newspaper to tell them about all the great work, volunteering, activism and good that's going on in the world today, well then where do they read all this? Also, to have newspapers in education is to provide a safe medium for children to access the information. With other magazines and newspapers for young readers full of advertising and product promotion, that was one of the reasons why we at NewsBites decided, no, let's stay clear of advertising. Let's just make this 100% for the children. And that is a big decision, and it has repercussions on the financial side of things for any publisher. But I think if we can convince schools to take NewsBites on board or to embrace newspapers in education, that might go a long way in hitting those targets of reading for pleasure and of providing safe and secure content. And lastly, it's to create a website. Well, the reason we decided to go down the route of inserting QR codes into our newspaper was to embrace the digital, which every child is very familiar with now and probably demands at this stage. So if something doesn't have a digital aspect to it, maybe you're going to lose the child at the door, rather than say to them, yeah, this is print, but come on in, have a look. You'll see that there are digital elements that you're able to enjoy and that are there for value and that can supply extra valuable content to them. So to create a safe and secure online platform is a very important part of our mission here at NewsBites as well. And there it provides a forum for independent thought, opinion, further reading, comprehension, and as I mentioned before, audio loaded articles that might just help that reader who struggles with the written word. So they are some of the reasons for NewsBites. I hope that throughout the presentation it hasn't came across as a sales pitch for NewsBites. We're passionate about newspapers. If it's our newspaper, super. If it's another newspaper, that's fine. But it's a commitment from schools to embrace newspapers in their educational landscape or in their framework or in their planning, because newspapers, they do a huge amount of good if they're well written. Okay guys, I've ran slightly over time, so apologies on that, but I suppose I just hope that from listening to me that you will get a sense of our passion for reading for pleasure, and how we believe newspapers are one of the key resources to enable that and to provide opportunities for reading for pleasure. Thank you very much. Again, apologies for going a few minutes over the time. I hope you have a brilliant conference. Thanks again. Bye-bye.